So this is all based on Robert's Rules of Order. This is the 10th edition, which I have in my hand, which is the newest. And they have made, and I see someone already got it, a smaller version, Robert's Rules in Brief, which is much easier to read and has questions most frequently asked. But it's the same material. I commented last time that 85% of the questions I get come from only 15% of the book. And this is the 15% of the book that have the things that mostly people ask about. I happen to get mine at Barnes & Noble, but you can get them at any of your favorite bookstores. So if we could go around, and that's who I am and what I do. I help all kinds of groups, from the Wayne State University Student Council to national women's organizations and cultural organizations and environmental organizations. Robert's Rules or any parliamentary authority can apply to any organization, but in order for you to apply it to your own organization, you need to ask questions about what it really does. Now, we start today with several resources. Our first resources, of course, is Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised in the 10th edition. And I showed you the Robert's Rules in Brief. We even have one that's briefer. So for anyone who was not here last time, please take a flyer, I think, or if you were here but forgot to bring it back, keep one. You'll notice that right on the top it says that this was prepared by the Education Committee of the National Association of Parliamentarians, and it gives you an email address, and you can also go, that's right, we have some more too for you. Go on their website and look at the materials that they have. Those who were here last time, we had a little experience with using this, and we'll bring you up to date shortly. The next resource we have is the Oakland County Republican Party bylaws, the rules for the selection of delegates and alternates, which Sean sent out in the email, and the Michigan Republican State Convention rules. Before we start, I think there are two concepts that are helpful for those who were here for me to repeat and for those who were not to understand. The first one is the whole concept of the funnel of laws under which we all live, beginning with the United States Constitution, and the fact that that's the framework within which we operate, and we cannot do things beyond that. Then we have any federal laws that apply to any of us. Whatever backgrounds you may have, you may do work in housing, and you'll know that there are federal laws related to housing. There are federal laws related to discrimination, federal laws related to the highway, so that in our daily lives we do come in contact with federal laws. Next, we have the Michigan Constitution, and then Michigan laws, again, which apply to a lot of what we do. In Michigan, the things that affect local officials, people in municipalities, are the Open Meetings Act, which defines that the public government must meet in public, the Right to Know law regarding substances and where you work and chemicals that are used, the Michigan Conflict of Interest law, which is the ethics law, which states what is expected of people and when they have to declare that they have a conflict of interest, and the Freedom of Information Act, which says that documents from public bodies must be available to us and details how to get them. So those are just mentioning 4 Michigan laws, but there are lots that apply to us daily. Then, depending on where you live, and I heard townships, I heard cities, I don't know if I heard a village, you have a charter or other document that controls how your government is operated. Cities in Michigan have home rule, so you're apt to have the widest divergence in the rules of your city if you're in a city. Townships and villages operate under more state legislation, and they're more likely to be similar. But you do have local rules. So that's the funnel of laws. Then we come down to the rules of order that are adopted for our own particular city councils and how they're operated, and any local ordinances. Now, anything that's not covered by all of those things that has to do with the procedure of running the meeting, that's where Robert's Rules is. So understand that, for example, in the Open Meetings Act in Michigan, the notice for meetings is very strict. How many hours a meeting must be noticed, depending on the kind of meeting. That's not in Roberts. So we would go to the higher rule, the Michigan Open Meetings Act rule. So always know that in that funnel where things take place. The other thing is that when you're thinking about your county convention or the state convention, you have to know that some of the rules are different from those that you might be expecting in organizations to which you belong. Something perhaps related to the PTA, something related to a community organization, perhaps your church or other religious institution. Those rules are for organizations that are nonprofit but are membership. When we go to those things that are wider, that involve the public, sometimes the rules are different. I just want you to kind of have that in your mind. So if we say something and you say, well, that doesn't seem the way it would usually operate in the PTA or the Kiwanis or Rotary, whatever you belong to, that's because sometimes when you are in the public sphere, after you become an elected official, there are different rules that apply to you. And when you become a precinct delegate, you are an elected official. And the rules will be slightly different for things when you have public open meetings. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later, and you can ask me some questions about it. But I just wanted you to know in your mind, when we train elected officials, people who've been elected to city councils, one of the things that they always talk about is, well, I want to wear two hats. If I'm on the city council and a stop sign on my street comes up, I want to be both a city council member and a citizen of Elm Street, and I want to wear a different hat and go in the audience and speak on behalf of my street. It's a different world. Once you're an elected official, things are different for you. You can speak out and make change on many things, but a part of what is you as an absolute private citizen gets submerged in what is for the whole community. What is the greater good? So that's something that people don't always think about when they run for office. And again, I'm referring not to a precinct delegate in this standpoint, but a city council member. And then they get elected and discover that actually now you're for everybody, and that maybe the perspective is a little bit different. But those are our resources that we have, our Robert's Rules, our bylaws, our rules for selection, and the state laws. And those are some of the concepts that we're going to deal with on the bigger picture. Let's take our flyer, and for all of those of you who are very experienced now, since you were here last time, you can show off. This is all that you need for any meeting. Isn't that amazing? All on one sheet. Inside, you're going to see the procedure for handling a main motion, and that's followed by the chair and a sample order of business. And there's always surprise when I tell people that actually everything you need to say in the meeting is on the inside of this flyer, but when you read it, you will discover that that's actually true. And we will go through it in a minute, but I wanted you just to have the understanding that on the outside, in the front, which is the one with the mace symbol on the top, we have the main, subsidiary, and privileged motions. And on the back, we have the non-ranking incidental motions and the motions that bring a question before the assembly. Perhaps it looks like a lot the first time you look at it, but you'll be surprised how quickly we're going to make it fall into very understandable. Now, would someone like to propose a main motion? A main motion introduces business, and the first thing you have to do is obtain recognition from the chair. And it depends on what kind of a group you're in, how that's done, because here you can just raise your hand.